today's video, we are gonna prep for Easter. We are gonna make the world's best lasagna. Perfect dinner to make ahead. So all we have to do is put it in the oven and cook it really early before we leave to go to church, and then turn the oven off and let it sit. And when we get home, we will have the most delicious home cooked meal. And while we're at it, we're gonna go ahead and make a couple of extra. So we'll have some for the freezer. And then we're gonna make homemade cake. We're gonna have a homemade strawberry cake. We're gonna have a homemade hummingbird cake, and we're gonna have homemade banana pudding. We probably don't need 3 desserts, but we're gonna have some for breakfast because it's Easter after all. And then we're gonna make a couple of goodies to share with the neighbors. And of course, we're gonna dye eggs so we can pock in celebration of the resurrection of Christ. All of these things are things that you can make today, tomorrow, up until even Saturday. You can make ahead so that you can enjoy the festivities with your family and your friends and your loved ones. Let's get busy. We have 2 pounds of ground beef and 2 pounds of ground pork. I thought this was Italian sausage, but it was just ground pork. So I added 3 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, and then I also added Cajun seasoning and cayenne pepper, and that's just to season the meat. That's not the seasonings that's gonna go into the lasagna. Now to this, while it's browning, I'm gonna add 1 large onion and 1 green bell pepper. This was frozen, just gonna let it defrost. I'm gonna de-seed it, cut it up. So we're gonna get this browned, and then we're gonna start working on the sauce. This is what it looks like after it's all brown. I went ahead and I added mushrooms because we love mushrooms. I cooked them down really well, so people that don't like mushrooms won't even hardly notice they're in there. This is what we're going to use for the sauce. Now, the original recipe calls for tomato sauce. I skipped that part and I just used crushed tomatoes. I used the original recipe as a guide, but I eyeball everything. So if I find it needs more liquid, then I'll add more crushed tomatoes because I don't do a lot of tomato sauce. I just have tomato paste and crushed tomatoes. Sometimes I'll use tomato paste to make sauce, but if I need to, I'll either add another can of tomato paste with some water, or I'll just add more crushed tomatoes. We have 10 cups of crushed tomatoes, 4 cans of tomato paste, 1 cup of red wine. We're going to use a cab. Now, when I add all the tomatoes, I'm going to chop up this frozen garlic. This is about 7 cloves of garlic, and I'm going to add the garlic, fennel seed, some more Cajun seasoning, dried parsley, and some fresh parsley, and a little bit of coconut sugar. So all that's going to go in the sauce, and that's going to cook for several hours. While that's cooking for several hours, I'm going to mix this cheese mixture together, and I'm going to let this sit in the fridge. We're going to do a 32-ounce container and a 15-ounce container of ricotta cheese. The original recipe does not call for cottage cheese. It's only ricotta, but we like cottage cheese, and I had picked some up on clearance, so we're going to use it. 2 16-ounce containers of cottage cheese mixed in with the ricotta, 2 eggs, some salt, and some dried parsley, and then it's going to sit in the refrigerator until we're ready to put our lasagna together. This is a little over a pound of mozzarella sliced. So I have 2 pounds of mozzarella and a whole block of Parmesan cheese just cut up in different segments from different ones. I may add other cheese as well. 2 packages of oven-ready lasagna, no boil. And I also have more if we have enough to make a 3rd lasagna. I'm so super excited to use these. I'm gonna wash these up. Pyrex deep dish bakers with the lids. I picked these up on clearance at Kroger last year. I was so super excited to find these. Perfect for freezer meals, and I actually picked up 4 or 5 of them. I know we're gonna use 2, and we may have enough to make a 3rd lasagna or maybe a smaller one. It's very simple to put together. I hope you guys give it a try. It's absolutely delicious. It has like 15,000 reviews. I don't follow recipes to the T. That's what's amazing about it. You customize it to your family's taste, and that's what I've done with this recipe. I've tweaked it for our family's taste. I transferred the cooked meat mixture into a large stock pot. I have the 10 cups of crushed tomatoes. That's all that's in the pot so far. In this bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of parsley, 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar, and 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. Well, I don't have Italian seasoning, so I just did 1 tablespoon of thyme and 1 tablespoon of oregano. So that's what's in this bowl. I also have my 7 chopped cloves of frozen garlic. That's gonna go in the pot. My 1 cup of red wine, this is a cab. This is a little more than 1 cup, that's okay. Now in this seasoning bowl, I have 1 tablespoon of Cajun seasoning, 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, and fennel seeds. I left the fennel seeds right here because, as you can see, I did not put a full tablespoon, probably 3/4 of a spoon. That's about what I put. is gonna go into the pot. After all of the crushed tomatoes has melted, that's when I'm gonna add the tomato paste. And then it's gonna simmer. I decided I'm gonna use fresh parsley for the cheese mixture. I just dumped all the seasoning in. And I'm gonna add the wine. Now, the ground meat is already cooked, so you simmer on low. You don't want a heavy boil. All right, when the crushed tomatoes are melted, I'll add the tomato paste and it's gonna simmer. Here's a look at the cheese mixture. I decided to add a tablespoon of garlic. This is only seasoned with salt and garlic powder and then the parsley. Now we're gonna mix it up. This is gonna go in the fridge until we're ready for it. I'm satisfied with this thickness, so I won't add anything. Now I do wanna give it a taste. Okay, I definitely want to add more seasoning. I'm a spice girl. I'm going to add some Tony's. Go ahead and cover the pot twice, back and forth. Actually 3 times, so 6 times total. And I'm also going to add a teaspoon of salt, a heaping teaspoon of garlic, and I think that'll be good. We'll taste it again in a couple of hours. Okay, friends, here's our pot of sauce. Here's our pot of cheese. Here's our 2 pans. These are 9 by 13 pans. I'm doing things a little bit differently. The original recipe says to put 1.5 cups of sauce at the bottom. This is 2 cups of sauce. And the original recipe says to put 6 noodles down. 6 noodles will not fit, so I'm only putting 4, so we'll probably just have an extra layer. These 2, they're ready to go, and I still have enough left to make another one. So I'm gonna pull out another pack of lasagna noodles, and we still have plenty of sauce, and then we'll probably have some extra sauce to freeze. Yay, we made 3 lasagnas, and we have enough pasta and meat sauce to serve us. That's gonna be a perfect crock pot meal. We have Easter, we have when our friends come over, plus we have an extra freezer meal for the freezer. I put 2 of them in these Pyrex containers, which is the deep dish. Then I did 1 in a traditional 9 by 13 because I wanted to figure out which shape I'm gonna like better to freeze lasagna in the future. I am gonna put fresh basil and parsley right before baking. I'm gonna bake covered for 25 minutes and uncovered for an additional 25 minutes. And this one's gonna go in the freezer and it'll just be dumped out in the crock pot, probably on a Sunday, church day, and we'll cook up some pasta on the side. 4 meals, done. Roast our bananas in the oven at 350 for 10 to 15 minutes. This is 2 bunches of bananas. I did wash the skins. I washed them and I dried them, separated them. You want the least amount of green as possible, and you don't want them overly ripe either. You just want them nice and yellow if possible. It's been 10 minutes and this is what they look like, and we want them all the way black like the one on the far right. So we're gonna close it and let them continue to cook. You can see the skin is starting to split apart. That's okay. Let's check them again. Okay, they look a lot better. It's been 13 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and do the last 2 minutes and then we'll pull them out. So it's been 15 minutes. Ideally, you want them this color. See how they split and they're starting to ooze? That's the best of the best of what you want. We're gonna use these for the banana pudding and the hummingbird cake. We have a pound of frozen strawberries, and I'm gonna put this on medium-low heat, and we are gonna let this cook down until it reduces in size. After 15 minutes, this is what we have. The strawberries are breaking up nicely, and we're gonna go ahead and let this continue to cook. You can cook this all the way up to an hour, however long you want. It's been another 15 minutes, 30 minutes total, and I am satisfied with the consistency of this puree. Most of the strawberries have cooked down and broken up. If you don't like the chunks, then put it in a blender before you start to cook it down, or just cook it down longer. Whenever I use the spatula, it takes a while to spring back, and that's what you're looking for. Now to this, I'm gonna add a splash of lemon juice, and I don't measure, I just pour. This next ingredient is totally optional. It's something that I have in the fridge, so I want to use some white chocolate, strawberry and cream, moonshine, and I'm just gonna pour probably about 1 ounce or 2. We'll let this cook for a minute or so, and then we'll turn the heat off and we'll let it start to cool. Let it cool completely. If you only have a couple of hours, you can put it in the freezer. Here's a look at the bananas once they have cooled. The color has intensified and they are a lot darker than they were. They're oozing nicely. We have 13 bananas. These are kind of in the small to medium size. We want 5 or 6 for the pudding. I'm gonna go ahead and do 6 since I have a bunch. 1.5 cups of sugar. Now I'm using raw cane sugar because that's what I have the most of. Mine will probably be darker. You can use white sugar. What the bananas look like on the inside when you open them. They've already been caramelized caramelized. This is just getting started. As you can see, the sugar is starting to melt, and my oh my, how delicious this smells already. Think of Banana Foster times 3. That's how rich this smells, and it's because we roasted the bananas. Anytime you can roast a fruit or a vegetable or a nut in its own skin, it's going to be so much sweeter. If you've seen any of my previous videos, that's the way I like to cook my sweet potatoes, where they look burnt on the outside and they're so super yummy and sweet on the inside. And it's the same as these bananas. These bananas are not burnt at all, just ooey gooey goodness. It's been about 3 minutes. It took hardly no time at all. They basically have just melted into the sugar. We're gonna add a pinch of salt. It's a pretty big pinch, or 2. A couple of tablespoons of butter. We're gonna add 3 cups of milk. This is whole milk and this is room temperature. We're gonna give it a stir. Next, we're gonna add 3/4 a cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can add lemon juice to regular milk and turn it into buttermilk. Let this cook for about 25-30 minutes. It's been about 20-25 minutes. I'm gonna turn it off. Looks like oatmeal. Doesn't look so great, but it smells phenomenal. Transfer the banana mixture to the Vitamix pitcher, and I'm gonna blend this up. Can puree the bananas before you put them into the brown sugar if you want to do it that way. There's no right or wrong way. Now we're going to pour it back into our Dutch oven. Let's see how thin and how smooth and creamy that is. This is the base for our pudding. I put 4 cups of the banana mixture back into the Dutch oven, and we have 2 2/3 cups left. To this, we are going to add 1/4 cup of the banana cream sipping cream. You could use bourbon if you didn't have the sipping cream, or you could just omit it. I'm gonna let that simmer for just a couple of minutes while we go ahead and mix up the egg mixture for the pudding. Next, we're gonna add our eggs and our cornstarch or arrowroot powder. Today, I'm using cornstarch. This is 1/3 cup. I have 5 whole eggs, and the way I figure out how many eggs to use is I use 1 less egg than I did bananas. So I used 6 bananas, so I used 5 eggs. If I would have used 5 bananas, then I would have used 4 eggs. That's how I determine how many whole eggs I use. Plus, I always add an additional egg yolks, 1 less. So if I use 5 whole eggs, 4 egg yolks. So there were 6 bananas, 5 whole eggs, 4 egg yolks. We're gonna add the whole eggs, the egg yolks, add the cornstarch. Now this is 1/3 cup. I'll blend this up. We're gonna pour and stir constantly. Turn the heat back on and let this cook for about 5 to 10 minutes, and it will thicken. If you do not like this color, you could put some yellow food coloring if you want it more bright yellow. And it could take anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes, but I try not to leave the stove at this point. It's been almost 10 minutes. I turned it off. Now I'm going to take about 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and I'm also going to put a splash of vanilla. Whip this up and let it sit for just a second while I get the ice bath ready. Large Pyrex bowl with ice water, and inside that bowl I'm gonna put another bowl, and this bowl is gonna catch our pudding. We're gonna strain it. I'll bring you back in just a second when it's all strained. This is what it looks like. We're gonna put it in the fridge for at least a couple of hours. This is what the strainer looks like. I have a mess to clean. I am gonna clean up all this mess, and then I'm gonna put those dishes away from earlier. Then I'll bring you back. Now that our puree has completely cooled, we're gonna get this cake going. For the cake, 8 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of olive oil, 4 ounces of buttermilk, 4 egg whites. This is what we have left from the banana pudding, a splash of vanilla, and a splash of almond extract. That's the wet ingredients. For the dry ingredients, we have 2 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of sugar. I'm using the raw sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Put this on for about 30 seconds to maybe a minute. I'm gonna beat it really well. Then I'm gonna slowly add the sugar. So we're gonna sift these ingredients together while this is beating. The oven has preheated to 350 and 2 9-inch cake pans with parchment paper and coconut oil spray. This is what the butter and the sugar looks like after a couple of minutes. I just scraped down the sides, put the lid on. I'm gonna put this back on for probably another 2 or 3 minutes. If I had white sugar, it wouldn't take as long, but because this is a coarse raw sugar, sugar, or sometimes I use coconut sugar, then it'll take a little bit longer. So I'm gonna put this back on for a few more minutes, and in the meantime, I'm gonna mix all of this in a big bowl. Organic almond extract, a splash of this and a splash of this, the milk, the olive oil, and the strawberry puree. I'm gonna mix it all up. Put the egg whites here because we're gonna slowly add them before we add everything else. Down the sides, and then we're going to slowly add the sifted flour and the strawberry mixture. We're going to rotate, adding the two. Oh, this smells so good. Go ahead and get this in the pan. Ooh, I am super messy today. We're gonna get these in the oven. They're gonna bake at 350 for about 30 minutes until they come out clean in the middle. Let's get these in the oven. I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and then we're gonna start on the icing. Here's our 2 strawberry cakes. They came out of the oven after about 30 minutes, and they cooled for 10 minutes. I just took them out, and I'm gonna let them cool completely before we icing them. Since I have the oven on today baking these Easter goodies, I decided to bake some Easter treats for some friends who are diabetic. So these are diabetic friendly lemon blueberry ricotta pound cakes, and they have Lily's white chocolate raspberry chips on top. This is what I used instead of the sugar, and I used a combination of almond flour and coconut flour, and they're so cute. We are gonna bake these at 350 for 1 hour. Let's make our hummingbird cake. 1 cup of date sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar, 3 eggs, a cup of pecans, roasted bananas, and I have 1 left. I'm gonna use this last one on my oatmeal tomorrow morning. 1 cup crushed pineapple. Now this was 1 cup of frozen pineapple that I had in the freezer. 1 cup of oil. I'm using almond oil. We're gonna use a couple of splashes of vanilla. Yesterday I sifted 3 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of salt. All that was sifted together and prepped in this bag. 2 9-inch baking pans that have been lined with parchment paper and sprayed with coconut spray. I went ahead and I mixed up the sugar, the brown sugar, and the date sugar. I mashed up the bananas, and I cracked open the eggs. The first thing we're gonna add is the eggs. Stir them in. This cake comes together more like a quick bread. I'm not using a mixer. Now we're gonna add a couple of splashes of vanilla. Oops, that was a big one. I love vanilla. Do you like vanilla? What is your favorite extract? Woohoo, that smells good. Now we're gonna add the almond oil. Slowly start mixing in our dry ingredients. And I say slowly, I like to do it in like 3 sections. We'll fold it in. We want it all incorporated, but we do not want to over mix this. That's good for the first go round. Put another third, and then I'll fold it in. The last of the dry ingredients. Looks like caramel. We're gonna add our pineapple. This looks a lot more like a quick bread or cookies or brownies than it does a cake, but it's gonna make a delicious, scrumptious cake. Now that we have the pineapple in, before I mix it, I'm gonna go ahead and add the bananas. Now this is 6 mashed oven roasted bananas. Now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna fold all this in. Next, we're gonna add our pecans. Most people chop the pecans. We like whole pecans, and these are little. So I'm gonna keep them that way. Give this a toss and then divide it equally between these 2 pans. We're gonna bake for 35 minutes on 350. It's icing time for the strawberry cake. This is what we're gonna use. Powdered sugar. I have 3 cups that's already been sifted in this bag. Cream cheese, 1 stick of butter. I happen to be using unsalted. It doesn't really matter. A couple of tablespoons of buttermilk, some almond extract, a container of whipped topping. I got this for the banana pudding and I bought 1 too many, so we're gonna add it. I don't always add this. And I was gonna use freeze-dried strawberries, and I realized that I don't have any more. So I pulled this out of the freezer. Now this is not even red. I don't know how much of this we're gonna use. We'll figure it out together. And it might change the color, but even if it's purple, purple is a pretty Easter color as well. The first thing we're gonna put in here is the cream cheese. We're gonna turn it on high, and we're gonna beat this for 1 minute. Now we're gonna add some butter. Do it in sections. sugar, a little bit at a time. A little drop of buttermilk, a little drop of almond oil, almond extract, sorry. Now we're gonna add a little bit of the acai powder. I put 2 scoops. I'm gonna go ahead and try to put 1 more scoop. Oh, I think I might put 1 more. I'm liking this. And we're good. I'm gonna put 1 spoon of the strawberry. Now we're gonna fold in this whipped cream, whipped topping.
Cool Whip.
This is delicious as is. Here's our first strawberry layer. We used the last of the strawberry puree. And now I'm gonna put 1 small scoop of the icing. This cake is not gonna be super sweet. The icing is not super sweet. Now we're gonna get the top layer. All right, it's getting ready to go in the refrigerator. I just wanted to show you what it looks like now. I am gonna top with fresh strawberries when we serve. We have so much icing left. Cream cheese and Cool Whip and strawberry with the acai powder. It's very, very light. It would be perfect as a fluff dip. Find something to serve it in, and I'm gonna put it on a tray with fresh fruit. That's what we're gonna do with this. We pulled the hummingbird cake out of the oven. It's been cooling for about 5 minutes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and transfer them from these pans to a cooling rack. It's time for us to put our pudding together. Originally, I was thinking I wanted to put them in individual serving size containers. It'll be easier just to put it in one big pan. We have the homemade banana pudding that we made, 1 block of cream cheese, condensed milk that I've been wanting to use up, and we also have this box of chessman cookies and bananas. So we're gonna layer the cookies at the bottom, the bananas, pudding. This part is Paula Deen's banana pudding recipe. The only thing is I make my own homemade banana pudding. We have the whipped cream and the condensed milk whipped together really well. We're gonna add the whipped topping, and then we're gonna fold it in the banana pudding. I put half of the chessman cookies at the bottom. I'm gonna cut up a layer of bananas and put that on top. I'm gonna leave this pretty swirl. I like to see the white. This is a very natural, fresh, homemade banana pudding, and we used raw sugar, so it is gonna be darker. Pour into the tray. We still have half the bowl left. I'm gonna cover this up and put it in the fridge. We have plenty for me to make individual portions to decorate for Easter. This is gonna be the big one. I went ahead and cut up a couple of bananas, and now I'm gonna put the chessman cookies on top. Let's make the icing for the hummingbird cake. We have 2 blocks of cream cheese, a stick and a quarter of butter, about a cup to a cup and a half of pecans, splash or 2 of vanilla, and a cup and a half of powdered sugar. First thing we're gonna do is beat the cream cheese, and then I'll add the butter, and then I'll slowly add the powdered sugar, and then a dash of the vanilla and the pecans at the very end. The cream cheese has been beating for about 5 minutes. See that glossy color? That's what we're looking for. Add some butter. I'm gonna add this stick of butter. I'm gonna slowly add the powdered sugar. It's almost like a pastel yellow because of the butter. Add our splashes of vanilla. 1, 2. There we go. This is the bottom of the first side of the hummingbird cake. There's the pecans I reserved. Here's the top layer, and this is our icing. I'm gonna go ahead and put thin layer in between. Didn't want to make too much icing, but if we need to, we can make a little bit more. And here we have our hummingbird cake all done. I think I may pick some edible flowers on Easter before we serve. Now it can go in the fridge. We are not going for perfection, tasty, homemade goodness. That's what we're going for. Here's a look at our hummingbird cake. Before I serve this, I'm gonna pipe it with some fresh whipping cream, not Cool Whip, but the real whipping cream. And I'm gonna also put Peeps on top, so I don't think we're gonna see the chessman cookies. Even though I'm not showing you the final look because I won't do it until Easter, I wanted to just give you the idea about taking Paula Deen's banana recipe and turning it up to the next level by making this homemade delicious banana pudding. Here's a final look at our strawberry cake. So simple, it's homemade, it's gonna be delicious. Fresh strawberries on top, cream cheese, whipped icing. Here's our little lemon berry loaves. Close this one up. I picked up a box of these at Bargain Hunt. I think it was $4 for like 24 of them. We're gonna be able to bless lots of people with lots of goodies with a cute spring print. We put a little note on here. Now it's ready to hand out. Hope you guys try one of these and have a wonderful, blessed, happy Easter. This looks scrumptious.